This is why you should always ask locals in the Philippines before having a vacation. Enter at your own risk. What you are about to watch is no just a story, but a window into one of the most haunted places in the world, the Diplomat Hotel. Its walls have seen horrors that words can scarcely describe, and its corridors echo with the cries of the past. This is not a tale for the faint-hearted. If you dare, step inside and uncover the dark mysteries that lurk within this cursed building. But be warned, once you know the truth, it might be impossible to forget. The Diplomat Hotel stands on Dominican Hill in Baguio City, Philippines, a grand but decaying structure that, at first glance, might be mistaken for a European-style castle. Its imposing facade hides a history drenched in blood and sorrow. Built in the early 1900s, the building originally served as a seminary and a retreat house run by the Dominican friars. During World War I, the peaceful sanctity of the place was shattered when the Japanese forces invaded the Philippines. The seminary was transformed into a military garrison where horrific acts of violence occurred. The priests and nuns who lived there were brutally tortured and murdered, and the cries of the innocent became etched into the very walls of the building. The poor nuns and priests were beheaded in the middle of the seminary, where a water fountain was placed. After the war, the building lay abandoned for years, its reputation as a haunted place growing. It was eventually converted into the Diplomat Hotel in year 1970 by businessman Tony Agpaoa. Despite its luxurious design and breathtaking views, the hotel never shook off its dark past. Guests and visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures, including the spirits of people dressed in old-fashioned clothing, wandering the premises. Some have described seeing the apparition of a young girl or hearing the sounds of children playing. There are frequent reports of unexplained noises, such as footsteps in empty hallways, whispers, and the sound of furniture moving by itself. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported experiencing sudden drops in temperature, objects moving on their own, and feelings of being watched. By the year 1980, the hotel had closed its doors, left to decay on the hill. But even in its abandonment, it remains a magnet for thrill seekers and ghost hunters, all drawn by the sinister tales of what happened there. The Diplomat Hotel has long been considered one of the most haunted places in the Philippines. Those who visit often speak of seeing shadowy figures in the hallways, ghostly remnants of the priests and nuns who met their untimely ends within its walls. The headless specters of nuns have been reported wandering the premises, carrying their severed heads in their hands, as if searching for some form of peace that continues to elude them. At night, the sounds of crying and wailing echo through the dilapidated halls, as if the very building is weeping for the souls trapped within. It is said that the spirits are restless, angry even, and that they do not take kindly to intruders. Many visitors have left the hotel feeling as though they were being followed or watched by unseen eyes. There are also stories of objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut with no one around, and lights flickering despite the building having no electricity. The air in certain rooms is thick with the stench of decay, as if the hotel itself is slowly rotting from the inside out. Jenna Martinez, a thrill seeker and amateur paranormal investigator, had always been fascinated by the tales of the Diplomat Hotel. One summer night, she and a group of friends decided to spend the night in the abandoned hotel, armed with only their flashlights and a few recording devices. As they ventured deeper into the hotel, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. The air was thick and oppressive, and every creak of the floorboards seemed to be magnified tenfold. Still, they pressed on, their nerves on edge, but their curiosity stronger than their fear. Around midnight, the group reached what was once the main hall. Jenna decided to explore on her own, drawn by a strange sensation she couldn't quite explain. She entered a room that had once served as the chapel. The moment she crossed the threshold, A cold gust of air swept past her, extinguishing her flashlight. In the pitch-black darkness, she heard a low, guttural moan, followed by the faint sound of a choir singing. The voices were distant, as though coming from another time, but they grew louder with each passing second. Jenna's heart raced as she fumbled with her flashlight. When it finally flickered back on, what she saw made her blood run cold. In the corner of the room stood a figure, a woman in a nun's habit, her face obscured by shadows. Jenna could feel the weight of the woman's gaze upon her, even though the nun had no eyes. Instead, there were just dark, empty sockets, voids that seemed to pull Jenna into them. Frozen in terror, Jenna tried to back away, but her feet wouldn't move. The figure began to approach, gliding across the floor without a sound. Jenna felt a suffocating pressure on her chest, as if an invisible force was squeezing the life out of her. Desperate, she closed her eyes and screamed, a sound that echoed through the empty corridors. When she opened her eyes, the figure was gone. Jenna bolted from the room, her screams drawing her friends to her side. They found her in a state of shock, unable to speak, her face pale and her eyes wide with fear. It was only after they left the hotel that Jenna could recount what she had seen, though she could barely make sense of it herself. Jenna never returned to the Diplomat Hotel, but the experience haunted her long after that night. She couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her home, something she couldn't see but could always feel. Her nights were plagued by nightmares of the eyeless nun, and she would often wake up in a cold sweat, certain that the figure was standing at the foot of her bed. The Diplomat Hotel still stands on that lonely hill, its walls whispering secrets to those who dare to listen. It is a place where the past refuses to stay buried, where the dead refuse to rest. The spirits of the Diplomat Hotel are always waiting, their stories left unfinished, their lives ended in violence. They are waiting for someone like you. So if you ever find yourself drawn to the old hotel, remember this: some doors are best left unopened, some secrets best left undiscovered.